She hid her medical degree to marry the billionaire CEO. Now she's the only brain surgeon who can save his daughter. Valentina, is it really you? The surgical mask couldn't hide the shock in her eyes as she looked up from the operating table. 7-year-old Sofia Castellano lay unconscious between them, her life hanging by a thread, while the man who had once called Valentina worthless stared at her in disbelief. Dr. Rossi, she corrected coldly, her hands never wavering from the delicate brain surgery she was performing. I'm the chief of pediatric neurosurgery here. You're a doctor. Dante's voice cracked with the weight of 5 years of regret. I'm a surgeon. The best pediatric neurosurgeon on the East Coast, actually. Her voice was steady, professional, but underneath lay the steel of a woman who had rebuilt herself from ashes. The same woman you called lacking sophistication is now the only person who can save your daughter's life. Have you ever had to face the person who shattered your heart while holding their loved one's life in your hands? Have you ever been in a position where the universe gave you the perfect opportunity for revenge, but your moral compass pointed toward redemption instead? This is the story of Dr. Valentina Rossi, the brilliant woman who hid her medical genius to become the perfect trophy wife, only to be discarded when she couldn't fit into his glittering world of tech billionaires and society expectations. But what Dante Castellano didn't know was that the simple girl from Queens he had thrown away like yesterday's newspaper had become the most renowned pediatric neurosurgeon in the country. And now, as his daughter's life hung in the balance, only Valentina's gifted hands could deliver either the ultimate revenge or the ultimate redemption. If you believe in the power of second chances and incredible transformations, hit that like button right now. Because this story will challenge everything you think you know about love, ambition, and the price of underestimating someone's dreams. Stay with me as we journey back 5 years to where it all began, in the marble halls of a Manhattan penthouse where love was about to collide with ambition in the most devastating way possible. The crystal chandeliers of the Castellano penthouse cast dancing shadows across the Italian marble floors as Valentina Rossi Castellano stood trembling in what had once been their bedroom sanctuary. In her manicured hands, she held the acceptance letter from Johns Hopkins neurosurgery program. The cream-colored paper felt heavier than gold, representing everything she had dreamed of since she was 12 years old and watched her younger brother die from a brain tumor that no one could operate on. The letter was her ticket to becoming the surgeon who could save children like him. The surgeon she had always been meant to be. Still playing with your little medical fantasies? Dante's voice cut through her joy like a blade dipped in ice. At 35, he commanded every room he entered. 6 feet of lean muscle wrapped in $1,000 Italian suits, dark hair that begged to be touched, and those piercing green eyes that had once looked at her with such passionate intensity. Now they held only cold dismissal, the same look he gave to business proposals that didn't meet his standards. It's not a fantasy, Dante. It's Johns Hopkins, the best neurosurgery program in the world. She held up the letter like a shield against his disapproval. They want me. Out of thousands of applicants, they chose me. And you want to throw away everything we've built for what exactly? To cut open people's heads in some sterile hospital. He moved to their bar cart with the predatory grace of a man accustomed to getting his way. The crystal decanter clinked against the glass as he poured himself 3 fingers of scotch that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Valentina turned to face her husband fully, still wearing the designer gown from the charity gala they had attended that evening. The midnight blue silk had been his choice because it presented the right image for a Castellano Industries board member's wife. She had felt beautiful in it 3 hours ago. Now it felt like a costume she was tired of wearing. I want to save lives, Dante. I want to use my mind for something more than planning dinner parties and looking beautiful at your business functions. You knew what you were signing up for when you married me. His voice carried the cold authority that made Fortune 500 CEOs tremble. You knew exactly what kind of wife I needed. I knew you loved me. Or at least, I thought you did. The words hung between them like a confession, raw and vulnerable in the opulent space that suddenly felt more like a museum than a home. Dante took a long sip of his scotch, his movements calculated and controlled. Love isn't enough to run a tech empire, Valentina. I need a partner who understands that image matters. That perception is reality in my world. Your world. Her voice rose with hurt and indignation. I thought it was our world. I thought we were building something together. We were building something together. Until you decided that being my wife wasn't enough for you anymore. The accusation hit her like a physical blow. This was the man who had courted her with poetry and midnight conversations about changing the world. The man who had traced her skin with reverent touches while she explained the intricate beauty of neural pathways. The man who had made love to her with passionate intensity while she whispered her dreams of becoming a surgeon against his lips. When had that man disappeared? When did it change, Dante? When did you stop wanting the woman who fell in love with your mind as much as your money? When I realized that my board of directors, my investors, my entire social circle, they all need to see a certain type of woman beside me. Someone who complements my brand, not competes with it. Your brand. The words tasted bitter on her tongue, like medicine she didn't want to swallow. Is that all I am to you now? A brand accessory? Dante's jaw tightened as he took another measured sip of his drink. The silence stretched between them, filled with the ghost of laughter that had once echoed through these same rooms. You're my wife, Valentina, but you're also a reflection of me, of Castellano Industries. Every board meeting, every investor dinner, every society function where millions of dollars change hands, people are watching. They're judging. They're deciding whether I'm the kind of man they want to trust with their money and their futures. And a woman who wants to be a surgeon threatens that somehow. A woman who's more interested in hospital rounds than boardrooms does, yes. He set down his glass with the precision of a man who controlled every aspect of his environment. Miranda Blackthorne understands that. She's been invaluable in helping me navigate the social complexities of high-stakes business. The name hit Valentina like a slap across the face. Miranda Blackthorne, the stunning socialite who had been increasingly present at Dante's business functions over the past 6 months. The woman who possessed the kind of effortless sophistication that came from old money and elite breeding, who wore designer gowns like they were casual clothes and commanded attention without ever seeming to try. Miranda Blackthorne. Valentina's voice was barely above a whisper. What does she have to do with this conversation? She understands what it means to be part of this world. She knows instinctively how to represent a man in my position properly. She would never consider abandoning her role as my partner to chase some selfish career fantasy. The words landed like physical blows, each one carefully chosen to wound. Valentina felt her heart beginning to crack like fine china under pressure. Selfish career fantasy. Is that what you call wanting to save children's lives? I call it abandoning your responsibilities to the man who gave you everything. Dante moved toward the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Central Park, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. Miranda would never put her personal ambitions above her duties as my wife. Because she doesn't need to work. She inherited enough money to buy and sell most small countries. Exactly. She understands that being Mrs. Dante Castellano is a full-time position that requires complete dedication. Valentina stared at her husband's back, seeing a stranger where her lover used to stand. Are you in love with her? The question hung in the air like a live wire, dangerous and electric. When Dante finally turned to face her, his expression was carefully controlled, but she could see the truth in his eyes before he spoke. I'm attracted to what she represents. Stability. Sophistication. The kind of partner my position requires. That's not what I asked you, Dante. Love is a luxury I can't afford anymore, Valentina. I need a wife who enhances my empire, not one who wants to abandon it for some misguided attempt at personal fulfillment. The admission hit her like a physical blow to the chest. This man, who had once written her love letters comparing her intelligence to starlight, who had supported her through pre-med studies, who had promised to love her dreams as much as he loved her, was now reducing their marriage to a business transaction. When did you become so cold? Her voice broke on the words. When did you stop being the man who used to say my ambition was one of the things he loved most about me? When I grew up and realized that romantic ideals don't build empires or maintain them. Valentina looked down at the acceptance letter still clutched in her hands, then at the wedding ring that had once symbolized everything she'd hoped for in life. The diamond caught the light from the chandelier, sending tiny rainbows across the wall like fractured dreams. Get out. Valentina, you're being dramatic. Get out. Her voice echoed through the cavernous bedroom, raw with pain and fury. Get out of this room. Get out of my sight. And don't you dare try to touch me or comfort me or pretend you have any love left for the woman you just destroyed. Dante straightened his tie with mechanical precision, his face a mask of cold control. I'll have my attorney contact yours tomorrow morning. I'll be generous in the settlement, naturally. I don't want your money. You'll take it. You'll need it to rebuild your life. His tone was matter of fact, as if they were discussing a failed business merger rather than the end of their marriage. Miranda and I will be announcing our engagement next month. I thought you should hear it from me first. The room spun around Valentina as the full scope of his betrayal became crystal clear. He hadn't just fallen out of love with her. He had already chosen her replacement. While she had been planning their future together, he had been planning his future without her. You've already chosen my replacement. I've chosen someone who can give me what I need in a wife. Someone who can enhance your brand, you mean. Someone who understands that being married to me comes with certain expectations and responsibilities that apparently you're not willing to meet. Valentina felt rage and heartbreak warring in her chest like opposing armies. I loved you, Dante. I loved you more than my own dreams, more than anything in this world. Love isn't enough anymore. It was never enough for you, was it? Dante moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. When he looked back at her, she caught a glimpse of something that might have been regret, but it was gone so quickly she might have imagined it. You're a brilliant woman, Valentina. You deserve someone who can appreciate your intelligence and your ambitions. And what do I have to offer, in your expert opinion? Beauty, intelligence, passion, just not the social sophistication my position requires. Get out of my house. It's my house, actually. The deed is in my name. Then I'll leave. The lawyers will handle all the details. You can stay until the paperwork is finalized. 20 minutes later, Valentina heard his Lamborghini roar to life in the circular driveway and speed away into the Manhattan night. She would later learn that he drove straight to Miranda Blackthorne's penthouse, where they celebrated their future together with champagne that cost more than most people's annual salary. But in that moment, sitting alone in the bedroom they had once shared, surrounded by the ruins of her marriage and her heart, Valentina made a decision that would change everything. She was going to Johns Hopkins. She was going to become the best neurosurgeon in the world. And someday, somehow, she was going to make Dante Castellano realize exactly what he had thrown away. The next morning brought gray skies and the kind of cold October rain that seemed to seep into your bones. Valentina stood in the lobby of Manhattan's most prestigious law firm, watching her signature dry on divorce papers that dissolved 5 years of marriage into legal terminology and financial arrangements. Mrs. Castellano, are you certain you don't want to contest the prenup terms? Harrison Webb, the attorney Dante had hired to handle their divorce, looked genuinely concerned. You're entitled to significantly more than you're accepting. I'm certain. Valentina's voice was steady despite the tremor in her hands. I don't want his money. I want my freedom. But the penthouse alone is worth $15 million. You could negotiate for half the value at minimum. I said I don't want it. She stood up, gathering her purse and the single manila folder that contained her copy of the papers. All I want is for this to be over so I can move on with my life. Mr. Webb studied her with the calculating gaze of a man who had overseen hundreds of high-net-worth divorces. If you don't mind me asking, what will you do now? Where will you go? Baltimore. I start medical school at Johns Hopkins in January. The surprise on his face was almost comical. Medical school? At your age? I'm 28, Mr. Webb, not 90. People have career changes all the time. Yes, but medical school is incredibly demanding. The financial burden alone, without Mr. Castellano's support. I'll manage. I always have. What she didn't tell him was that she had already sold every piece of jewelry Dante had given her except her grandmother's simple gold cross. The engagement ring alone had brought in enough money to cover her first year of tuition. The earrings, necklaces, and tennis bracelets that had once adorned her at society functions would fund her living expenses. She was trading diamonds for dreams, and she had never been more certain of anything in her life. 3 months later, Valentina sat in the back row of her first anatomy lecture at Johns Hopkins, surrounded by students who were mostly 5 to 7 years younger than her. Her fellow students whispered among themselves, clearly wondering what a woman her age was doing starting medical school. The human brain, Professor Williams announced, his voice carrying across the lecture hall. contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others through synapses. It is the most complex structure in the known universe, and we are only beginning to understand its mysteries. Valentina leaned forward, completely absorbed. This was what she had given up her marriage for. This knowledge, this purpose, this chance to understand the intricate miracle that made consciousness possible. Can anyone tell me why the brain is often called the final frontier of medical science? Hands shot up around the room, but Valentina's voice carried clearly before anyone could be called upon. Because unlike other organs, the brain defines who we are. When we operate on a heart, we're fixing a pump. When we operate on a liver, we're repairing a filter. But when we operate on a brain, we're working with the essence of a person's identity, their memories, their personality, their very soul. The lecture hall fell silent. Professor Williams, a man known for his intimidating demeanor and sharp tongue, studied her with new interest. And you are? Valentina Rossi. First year. Well, Ms. Rossi, that's the most insightful answer I've heard to that question in 15 years of teaching. Where did you develop such understanding? Personal experience, sir. My younger brother died of a brain tumor when I was 12. The doctors said it was inoperable, too close to critical areas to risk surgery. I've been thinking about that day ever since. Professor Williams nodded slowly. I see. Well, class, Ms. Rossi has just demonstrated why we study medicine. Not for the prestige or the money, but because somewhere out there are children like her brother waiting for us to get better at what we do. After class, several students approached Valentina with curiosity and cautious respect. But it was Professor Williams who pulled her aside with a question that would change everything. Ms. Rossi, have you given any thought to your specialty focus? Pediatric neurosurgery. I want to operate on children's brains. That's the most demanding field in medicine. The failure rate is astronomical, the emotional toll is devastating, and the learning curve is nearly vertical. I know. It's also where we need our best minds. He handed her a business card. There's a research position available in my lab. We're working on new techniques for operating on previously inoperable tumors. Interested? Valentina took the card, feeling like she was holding her future. When do I start? The years that followed were a blur of 16-hour study days, research projects that pushed the boundaries of medical science, and clinical rotations that tested every limit of her emotional and physical endurance. While her former Manhattan social circle attended charity galas and weekend retreats in the Hamptons, Valentina lived on coffee, determination, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing she was building something meaningful. Her transformation was remarkable. The uncertain young woman who had left Manhattan became a confident medical student who dominated her classes. The trophy wife who had once worried about saying the wrong thing at dinner parties became a researcher who presented groundbreaking findings at international conferences. But the most dramatic change was internal. Every challenge she faced, every 18-hour surgery she observed, every time she held the hand of a frightened child patient, she felt herself becoming the woman she was always meant to be. Rossi, scrub in. You're observing the Whipple procedure in or 3. Dr. Sarah Chun, chief resident and Valentina's mentor, barely looked up from her charts as she delivered the assignment. It was Valentina's 4th year, and she had earned a reputation as one of the most dedicated students in the program. The Whipple, on a pediatric patient, 7-year-old boy, pancreatic tumor that's wrapped around major blood vessels. Highest degree of difficulty. Valentina felt her pulse quicken. The Whipple procedure was one of the most complex operations in medicine, requiring surgeons to reconstruct major digestive organs. On a child, the margin for error was virtually non-existent. Who's the lead surgeon? Dr. Martinez. He's been doing this for 20 years, and he's never lost a pediatric Whipple patient. In the observation gallery above, or 3, Valentina watched Dr. Martinez work with the precision of a master artist. Every movement was deliberate, every decision calculated. When unexpected bleeding threatened to derail the operation, he remained calm and methodical until the crisis passed. That, Dr. Chin said quietly beside her, is what we aspire to. Complete mastery under impossible pressure. How long before I can perform operations like that? If you continue at your current pace, about 3 more years of residency, then fellowship training. But Rossi, I have to ask, what drives you? I've never seen a student push themselves as hard as you do." Valentina was quiet for a moment, watching Dr. Martinez carefully reconnect the child's reconstructed digestive system. "I made a promise to someone once, that I would become the best surgeon I could possibly be. Someone special. Someone who didn't believe I could do it." Dr. Chin studied her profile. "Well, whoever they were, they're going to be very surprised." But Valentina wasn't doing this to surprise anyone anymore. Somewhere during her third year, between delivering her first baby and losing her first patient, she had stopped being motivated by proving Dante wrong. She was motivated by something deeper, more sustaining. She was motivated by the mothers who trusted her with their children's lives. By the fathers who broke down crying when she told them the surgery had been successful. By the children themselves, who looked at her with complete faith that she would fix whatever was broken inside them. This was her calling. Not revenge, not vindication, but purpose. The morning of her graduation from Johns Hopkins arrived with the kind of perfect spring weather that felt like a benediction. Valentina stood in her cap and gown, surrounded by classmates who had become her chosen family over the past 4 years. "Ladies and gentlemen, graduating magna cum laude with highest honors in surgical research, Dr. Valentina Rossi." The applause seemed to echo forever as she walked across the stage to receive her diploma. In the audience, her mother wept with pride, holding a photo of Valentina's brother Marco, who would have been 26 years old. After the ceremony, Dr. Williams approached her with news that would complete her transformation. "Valentina, I have an offer for you. Mount Sinai in Manhattan wants you for their pediatric neurosurgery residency program. It's the most competitive position in the country." Manhattan. The word felt strange on her tongue. She hadn't been back to New York since the divorce. "I know it might be complicated, returning to the city where your previous life was. But this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Dr. Rodriguez is the best pediatric neurosurgeon in the world, and he specifically requested you for his program." Valentina looked out at the Baltimore skyline, thinking about the scared young woman who had arrived here 4 years ago with nothing but determination and a suitcase full of broken dreams. "I'll take it." "Are you sure? It means another 5 years of residency, plus fellowship training. You won't be fully independent until you're 37. Dr. Williams, for years ago, I was planning charity luncheons and worrying about whether my dress was appropriate for a board meeting. Now I'm about to become a brain surgeon. I think I can handle 5 more years of training." He smiled, the expression transforming his usually stern face. "Dr. Rossi, you're going to be extraordinary." As Valentina packed her few belongings for the move back to Manhattan, she found herself thinking about Dante for the first time in months. By now, he was probably married to Miranda, living the perfectly curated life he had always wanted. She wondered if he ever thought about the woman he had called lacking in sophistication, who was now Dr. Valentina Rossi, incoming resident at one of the most prestigious hospitals in the world. She hoped he was happy. She really did, because she had learned something during her transformation that she wished she could tell him. When you find your true purpose in life, revenge becomes irrelevant. Success becomes its own reward. And she was about to become more successful than either of them had ever imagined possible. The helicopter's rotors cut through the pre-dawn darkness over Manhattan as Valentina Rossi, now Dr. Valentina Rossi, made her way to Mount Sinai Hospital for what would become the most important day of her life. But she didn't know that yet. All she knew was that her pager had gone off at 2:47 a.m. with the kind of urgent code that meant a child's life hung in the balance. "Dr. Rossi, we have a 7-year-old girl incoming from the Hamptons. Massive brain hemorrhage from a riding accident. The family specifically requested you." The voice of her chief resident crackled through her phone as she changed into scrubs in the hospital's locker room. 5 years of residency and fellowship training had transformed her into one of the most sought-after pediatric neurosurgeons on the East Coast, known for her steady hands and ability to save patients other doctors had written off as hopeless. "Patient's name?" she asked, pulling her dark hair back into a surgical cap. "Sophia Castellano. Her father is flying in via helicopter. Apparently, he's some kind of tech mogul." The surgical mask Valentina was adjusting suddenly felt too tight. The locker room seemed to tilt around her as the name she hadn't heard spoken aloud in 5 years hit her like a physical blow. "Castellano. Drop a comment if you've ever had to choose between love and your dreams," Because what happened next would test everything Valentina thought she knew about forgiveness, redemption, and the price of pursuing your purpose when it collides with your past in the most impossible way. Castellano. The name escaped her lips in a whisper that seemed to echo off the sterile walls. It couldn't be. After 5 years of carefully rebuilding her life, of becoming everything she had dreamed of, fate couldn't be cruel enough to thrust Dante back into her world through the tragedy of an injured child. But as Valentina rushed toward the trauma bay, her mind racing with medical protocols and personal chaos, she knew with absolute certainty that the universe had just dealt her the most impossible hand imaginable. Dr. Rossi, thank God you're here. Dr. Martinez, the chief of staff, intercepted her in the hallway. The patient is critical. Massive subdural hematoma from being thrown from her horse. She's been unconscious for 45 minutes. Vitals. Valentina forced her voice to remain steady, switching into the clinical focus that had made her legendary among her colleagues. Blood pressure dropping, heart rate erratic. We need to relieve the pressure immediately, or we're going to lose her. As they approached the trauma room, Valentina caught her first glimpse of 7-year-old Sofia Castellano through the glass doors. The child was beautiful, with dark hair spread across the pillow and delicate features that reminded Valentina painfully of someone else. Someone whose face had haunted her dreams for 5 years. The family? She asked, though she dreaded the answer. Father and stepmother are in the family conference room. They're quite demanding about the level of care, as you might imagine. Stepmother. So Dante had married Miranda after all. The perfect society wedding, the perfect wife, the perfect life that Valentina hadn't been sophisticated enough to provide. I need 5 minutes to review her scans before I meet with them. In the radiology room, Valentina studied Sofia's brain scans with the trained eye of someone who had seen hundreds of similar cases. The injury was severe but operable. In the right hands, with the right technique, this child could make a full recovery. Unfortunately, Valentina's were the only hands in the tri-state area skilled enough to attempt this particular surgery. Dr. Rossi. A nurse appeared in the doorway. The family is asking to speak with you immediately. They're becoming quite insistent. Valentina closed her eyes for a moment, gathering the strength she would need for what came next. When she opened them, she was no longer the heartbroken woman who had left Manhattan 5 years ago. She was Dr. Valentina Rossi, chief of pediatric neurosurgery, and she had a child's life to save. The family conference room felt smaller than it should have as Valentina approached the door. Through the glass panel, she could see 2 figures sitting in the leather chairs. The man had his back to her, but she would have recognized those shoulders anywhere. The woman beside him was exactly as Valentina remembered. Miranda Blackthorne, now Miranda Castellano, with her perfectly styled blonde hair and the kind of ageless beauty that money could buy. Valentina knocked twice and entered. Mr. and Mrs. Castellano, I'm Dr. Rossi. I'll be performing your daughter's surgery. Dante turned in his chair, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. 5 years fell away like autumn leaves, and she was looking into the same piercing green eyes that had once promised her forever. He was older now, silver threading through his dark hair, lines around his eyes that spoke of stress and responsibility. But he was still devastatingly handsome, still possessed of that commanding presence that could fill a room. Valentina. Her name on his lips was barely a whisper, filled with disbelief and something that might have been longing. Dr. Rossi, she corrected firmly, not moving closer to where they sat. I understand your daughter suffered significant head trauma. I've reviewed her scans, and while the injury is serious, it's absolutely operable. You're a doctor. Dante's voice carried notes of wonder and confusion. You're actually a doctor. I'm a surgeon, chief of pediatric neurosurgery, actually. Miranda, who had been studying Valentina with growing recognition and suspicion, finally spoke. I'm sorry, but do you two know each other? The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Valentina met Dante's gaze steadily, waiting to see how he would handle this moment of truth. Dr. Rossi and I have a history, Dante said carefully. But right now, all that matters is Sofia. What kind of history? Miranda's voice had taken on the sharp edge of a woman who sensed a threat. The kind that's irrelevant to your daughter's medical care, Valentina interjected smoothly. Now, let me explain the procedure. Your daughter has what we call a subdural hematoma. Blood is collecting between her brain and skull, creating pressure that could cause permanent damage if not relieved immediately. How dangerous is the surgery? Dante leaned forward, his business persona giving way to the fear of a father. Any brain surgery carries risks, but the alternative is far worse. Without intervention, the pressure will continue to build, potentially causing stroke, permanent brain damage, or death. Miranda gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Death? She could die. Not on my watch, Valentina said with quiet confidence. I've performed this procedure hundreds of times. Your daughter is young, healthy, and her brain has remarkable healing capacity. The prognosis for full recovery is excellent. How long will the surgery take? Dante asked. 3 to 4 hours, depending on the complexity of what we find. I'll need to make a small incision in her skull to access the bleeding and then carefully remove the blood clot while ensuring no damage to surrounding brain tissue. And you're the best surgeon for this. Miranda's question carried an undertone of challenge. I'm the only surgeon in this hospital qualified to perform this operation on a child, Valentina replied matter-of-factly. Pediatric neurosurgery requires specialized training and experience that very few doctors possess. Dante stood up suddenly, moving to the window that overlooked the city. Valentina, I need to ask you something privately. Mr. Castellano, I don't think that's appropriate, Miranda protested. It's about Sophia's medical history. Something I need to discuss with the surgeon alone. Miranda's face flushed with anger, but she couldn't argue with medical privacy. Fine, I'll be in the waiting room. After Miranda left, closing the door with more force than necessary, Dante turned to face Valentina fully. I can't believe it's really you. After all these years, you're here, and you're saving my daughter's life. I'm doing my job, Dante. Nothing more. Your job. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Valentina, you became everything you said you would. You're extraordinary. I became what I needed to become. For myself, I was so wrong about everything. His voice broke slightly. I was so incredibly, devastatingly wrong. This isn't the time or place for personal conversations. Your daughter needs surgery immediately. I know. I need you to know that not a day has passed that I haven't regretted what I said to you. What I did to us. Valentina studied his face, seeing genuine remorse there, but also recognizing the danger of allowing old emotions to surface when she needed to be completely focused. Dante, 5 years ago you made it very clear that I wasn't what you needed in your life. Today, I'm exactly what your daughter needs to survive. Let's keep it that simple. Is it that simple for you? It has to be. Because in 30 minutes, I'm going to be holding your child's life in my hands, and I need every ounce of concentration I possess. Dante nodded slowly, understanding the weight of what she was saying. Will you save her? I'll do everything in my power to bring her home to you safely. Thank you. Whatever happened between us, whatever mistakes I made, thank you for being here when she needs you. Valentina moved toward the door, then paused. Dante, for what it's worth, I hope you found what you were looking for. I hope Miranda gave you the life you wanted. Before he could respond, she was gone, leaving him alone with the echo of words that carried more questions than answers. In or two, Valentina stood at the scrub sink, methodically washing her hands while mentally preparing for the most emotionally complex surgery of her career. Through the observation window, she could see the surgical team preparing Sophia, positioning monitors, and ensuring every instrument was perfectly sterilized. Dr. Rossi, her chief resident, Dr. Kim, appeared beside her. Are you all right? You seem more tense than usual. I'm fine. Just focused. The patient's father has been asking a lot of questions about you, specifically about your qualifications and experience. Standard parental anxiety. They want reassurance that their child is in capable hands. Maybe, but he seemed to know you personally. Is there something I should be aware of? Valentina finished scrubbing and reached for sterile towels. Dr. Kim, in 15 minutes we're going to save a little girl's life. That's all that matters. Of course, it's just that personal connections can sometimes complicate medical decisions. The only connection I have to that child is my oath as a physician to do no harm. Everything else is irrelevant. But as Valentina entered the operating room and took her position at Sophia's head, she couldn't quite convince herself that everything else was truly irrelevant. This was Dante's daughter, the child he had created with another woman after declaring that Valentina wasn't suitable to be his wife. "Patient is under anesthesia and stable," announced Dr. Peterson, the anesthesiologist. "Ready when you are, Dr. Rossi." "Beginning craniotomy," Valentina said, her voice calm and controlled. "Scalpel." For the next 3 hours, Valentina worked with the precision and artistry that had made her famous among her peers. She carefully removed a section of Sophia's skull, located the source of bleeding, and meticulously evacuated the blood clot that was threatening the child's life. "Pressure readings are normalizing," reported the surgical nurse. "Good. I can see the tear in the vessel wall. Preparing to repair with microscopic sutures." Every movement was deliberate, every decision calculated. This was why she had spent 5 years training, why she had sacrificed everything for this knowledge and skill. In this moment, she wasn't Dante's ex-wife or the woman he had found lacking. She was simply the surgeon who stood between this child and tragedy. "Bleeding is controlled," she announced. "Beginning closure. This little girl is going to be just fine." The collective sigh of relief from the surgical team was audible. Another successful save, another child who would go home to her family because of Valentina's gift. "Exceptional work, Dr. Rossi," said Dr. Kim. "That was textbook perfect. It was necessary, nothing more." But as they prepared to move Sophia to recovery, Valentina found herself looking down at the child's peaceful face and feeling something unexpected. Not just professional satisfaction, but a deeper emotion that she couldn't quite name. This was Dante's daughter, and despite everything that had happened between them, despite all the pain and betrayal, Valentina was genuinely glad she had been able to save her. In the recovery room, Sophia looked tiny and fragile, connected to monitors and 4 lines. But her vital signs were strong, and all neurological indicators pointed to a complete recovery. "When will she wake up?" Dante's voice came from behind Valentina as she reviewed Sophia's chart. "Within the hour. The anesthesia should wear off naturally, and she should regain consciousness gradually. And then we monitor her closely for 24 hours to ensure there are no complications. But I expect her to make a full recovery." Dante moved to his daughter's bedside, gently touching her small hand. "She looks so fragile. Children's brains are remarkably resilient. She's young and healthy. In a few weeks, this will just be a scary memory. Valentina, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. This is what I do. No, this is what you chose to do. Despite everything I put you through, despite how I treated you, you saved my daughter's life." Valentina was quiet for a moment, watching Dante with his unconscious child. There was such tenderness in his touch, such obvious love in his expression. Whatever his faults as a husband, he was clearly a devoted father. "She's an innocent child, Dante. What happened between us has nothing to do with her. But it has everything to do with you being here, being capable of saving her. If you hadn't become a doctor, if you hadn't what?" Dante looked up from Sophia's bedside. "If I hadn't been so blind and cruel 5 years ago, you might never have gone to medical school. You might never have become the surgeon who could save her life. Are you saying you're glad you destroyed our marriage? I'm saying I'm grateful that your strength and determination turned my worst mistake into the miracle that saved my daughter." Before Valentina could respond, Miranda burst into the recovery room like a storm front. "How is she? Is she going to be all right?" Miranda's concern for Sophia seemed genuine, despite her obvious distress about Dante's private conversation with Valentina. "The surgery was completely successful," Valentina reported professionally. "She should wake up within the hour, and we expect a full recovery." "Thank God." Miranda moved to Sophia's other side, creating a family tableau that excluded Valentina entirely. "When can we take her home?" "She'll need to stay here for several days while we monitor her recovery. Brain surgery requires careful observation, even when everything goes perfectly." "Several days." Miranda's voice carried the sharp edge of someone accustomed to controlling her environment. "Is that really necessary? Surely she would recover better in the comfort of her own home." "Mrs. Castellano, your daughter just underwent major brain surgery. Medical supervision isn't optional. Of course, I just want what's best for her. What's best for her is following medical protocol exactly." Miranda studied Valentina with calculating eyes. "Dr. Rossi, now that the surgery is over, Perhaps you could recommend another doctor to oversee Sophia's recovery. Someone without any personal connection to the family. The suggestion hung in the air like a challenge. Dante looked up sharply from Sophia's bedside. Miranda, Dr. Rossi performed the surgery. She's the most qualified person to manage Sophia's recovery. I'm sure there are other qualified doctors who don't have complicated histories with the family. What complicated history? Dante's voice carried a warning tone that Miranda either didn't hear or chose to ignore. Oh, didn't you tell me? Dr. Rossi is your ex-wife. The words exploded into the room like a grenade. Valentina felt her professional composure waver for just a moment before she regained control. My personal history with Mr. Castellano has no bearing on your daughter's medical care, she said evenly. But if you're uncomfortable with my involvement, I can certainly arrange for Dr. Rodriguez to take over her case. No. Dante's voice was firm. Absolutely not. Valentina, Dr. Rossi saved Sophia's life. She'll continue to oversee her care. But darling, don't you think it's inappropriate for your ex-wife to be treating our daughter? I think it's inappropriate to change doctors mid-treatment because of personal discomfort. Miranda's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Personal discomfort. Dante, your ex-wife is treating our child. That goes beyond personal discomfort. Daddy, the small voice from the hospital bed cut through their argument like a sword. Sophia's eyes were fluttering open, confusion and fear evident in her expression. I'm right here, princess. Dante immediately focused all his attention on his daughter, taking her hand gently. You're safe. You're in the hospital, but you're going to be fine. My head hurts, Sophia whispered. I know, sweetheart. You had an accident, but the doctor fixed everything. Sophia's gaze found Valentina standing quietly at the foot of her bed. Are you my doctor? I am. I'm Dr. Rossi. How are you feeling? Confused. And tired. What happened to me? You fell from your horse and hit your head. You had some bleeding in your brain, but I was able to fix it with surgery. You're going to be perfectly fine. Will I be able to ride again? Valentina smiled, her first genuine expression since this ordeal began. Once you're fully healed, there's no reason you can't do anything you want to do. That's good. I love horses. I can tell. Your father says you're quite an accomplished rider for someone your age. As Valentina interacted with Sophia, Dante found himself mesmerized by the transformation in his ex-wife. The uncertain young woman he had dismissed as lacking sophistication had become a confident, accomplished professional who commanded respect and saved children's lives. She was more beautiful than he remembered, success and self-assurance adding a radiance to her features that had nothing to do with designer clothes or expensive jewelry. Dr. Rossi, Sophia said with the seriousness that children sometimes possessed, thank you for fixing my brain. You're very welcome, sweetheart. That's what I do. I fix things that are broken so little girls like you can grow up to be anything they want to be. The words carried weight beyond their surface meaning, and Dante felt them like arrows to his heart. This was the woman he had called lacking in sophistication, the woman whose dreams he had dismissed as selfish fantasies. She had not only achieved everything she had set out to do, but she had become something extraordinary in the process. I need to check on other patients, Valentina said, stepping back from Sophia's bed. But I'll be monitoring your progress closely. You should be able to go home in a few days. Will I see you again? Sophia asked with innocent directness. I'll be checking on you every day until you're ready to go home. As Valentina prepared to leave, Dante felt a desperate urge to call her back, to somehow bridge the gap that 5 years and so much hurt had created between them. Valentina, he said quietly. She turned back, her expression professionally neutral, but her eyes guarded. Thank you. For everything. For saving her. For being here when she needed you most. Any competent neurosurgeon would have done the same. But it wasn't any neurosurgeon. It was you. The woman I. He stopped himself, acutely aware of Miranda's presence and his daughter's listening ears. The woman you what, Dante? The woman I underestimated in every possible way. For a moment, something flickered in Valentina's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or a glimpse of the pain he had caused her. But then her professional mask slipped back into place. I need to continue my rounds. Sophia, I'll see you tomorrow morning. After she left, the room felt smaller somehow, charged with the electricity of unfinished conversations and unresolved emotions. She's very intense, isn't she? Miranda observed, settling into the chair beside Sophia's bed. Not very warm bedside manner. She just saved our daughter's life, Dante replied, his voice sharper than he intended. I think that's more important than warmth. Of course, darling. I just think doctors should be more accommodating to their patients' emotional needs. Dante thought about Valentina's precision during what must have been an incredibly complex surgery, her steady hands repairing his daughter's damaged brain, her refusal to let their personal history interfere with Sophia's care. I think she's exactly what a doctor should be. Share this video if you believe karma has perfect timing, because what happened over the next few days would test everything Dante thought he knew about love, regret, and the price of throwing away something precious. Over the next 3 days, as Sophia recovered ahead of schedule, Dante found himself looking forward to Valentina's twice-daily rounds with an anticipation that had nothing to do with his daughter's medical condition and everything to do with the woman who had once been the center of his world. Your recovery is remarkable, Valentina told Sophia on Thursday morning, reviewing her chart with the same professional detachment she had maintained since that first night. All your cognitive functions are normal, and the surgical site is healing perfectly. When can I go home? Sophia asked from her bed, where she had been drawing pictures of horses with the art supplies Miranda had brought. If you continue progressing at this rate, possibly by the weekend. But you'll need to take it easy for several weeks and follow up regularly. Dante nodded, studying Valentina's face for any sign of the woman he had once known. Will you be handling her follow-up care? I'll oversee her treatment, yes. Children's brains heal remarkably well, but we want to monitor her progress carefully. Dr. Rossi, Sophia said suddenly, looking up from her drawing. Why do you and Daddy look at each other like that? Both adults froze at the child's innocent observation. Out of the mouths of babes came truths that adults tried to hide. Like what, sweetheart? Valentina asked carefully. Like you used to know each other really well, but now you're pretending you don't. Dante felt his heart skip. His 7-year-old daughter had just articulated something he'd been struggling to understand for days. Dr. Rossi and I did know each other once, he said gently. A long time ago, before you were born. Were you friends? The question hung in the air, loaded with complexity that a child couldn't possibly understand. We were very close friends, Valentina said carefully. But sometimes grown-up friendships get complicated. Why? Because grown-ups sometimes make mistakes and hurt each other's feelings. Sophia considered this with the serious expression she had inherited from her father. But if you were really good friends, couldn't you just say sorry and be friends again? It's not that simple, princess, Dante said softly. Why not? If someone hurt my feelings but they said sorry and meant it, I would forgive them. That's because you have a very kind heart, Valentina said, her voice gentler than it had been in days. But sometimes sorry isn't enough to fix what's been broken. But you're both nice people, and you're both helping me get better. That seems like a good reason to be friends again. Before either adult could respond, Miranda entered the room carrying shopping bags from high-end children's boutiques. Good morning, darling. I've brought you some new pajamas and books to make your stay more comfortable. She barely acknowledged Valentina's presence. Doctor, when will my stepdaughter be able to resume her normal activities? Your stepdaughter will need several weeks of modified activity. No riding, no contact sports, no activities that risk head injury. Several weeks. But she has competitions coming up. We've already made commitments. Mrs. Castellano, your stepdaughter just underwent major brain surgery. Her recovery takes priority over any social or athletic commitments. But people will ask questions. They'll think something is seriously wrong. Something was seriously wrong, Valentina replied firmly. Your stepdaughter could have died from her injuries. Several weeks of modified activity is a small price to pay for a full recovery. For the first time, Miranda seemed to grasp the gravity of what had happened. I didn't realize it was that serious. The brain isn't something we take chances with, especially in children. Dante watched this exchange with growing awareness of the fundamental differences between the two women in his life. Miranda, focused on appearances and social obligations, and Valentina, dedicated to what actually mattered, his daughter's health and future. I need to continue my rounds, Valentina said, gathering her charts. I'll see you this evening, Sophia. As she left, Dante found himself wishing he could follow her, that he could have just 5 minutes of honest conversation without the weight of their past mistakes and his current complicated life between them. She really is quite presumptuous, isn't she? Miranda observed once Valentina was gone. Very cold and clinical. She just saved Sophia's life, Miranda. I think that deserves some respect. Of course, darling. I'm just concerned about how this situation is affecting you. What do you mean? You've been different since Sophia's accident. Distant. And seeing your ex-wife again must be bringing up complicated emotions. Dante looked at his sleeping daughter, then at his current wife, weighing his words carefully. It's certainly been unexpected. I hope you remember that we have a good life together, Dante. A stable, compatible life that works for both of us. Do we, Miranda? Are you happy? Really, truly happy? The question seemed to surprise her. Of course I'm happy. We have everything we could want. Beautiful homes, exciting social circle, financial security. But do you love me? Love? Miranda's laugh was uncertain. Dante, we care about each other. We enjoy each other's company. We make an excellent team. That's not the same thing. What's brought this on? You've been asking strange questions ever since that woman showed up. That woman has a name. And she's not just any woman. She's the most accomplished pediatric neurosurgeon on the East Coast who just saved our daughter's life. She's also your ex-wife who you told me couldn't handle being married to someone in your position. Dante was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications of Miranda's words. I told you that. You said she was too academic, too focused on her own ambitions to be a proper partner for someone building an empire. I said that. It wasn't a question. Dante remembered now the early conversations with Miranda when he had justified his divorce by painting Valentina as selfish and unsuitable. So yes, I find it ironic that she's now treating our daughter and you're suddenly questioning our marriage. Maybe I was wrong about her. Maybe I was wrong about a lot of things. Miranda stood up, pacing to the window with agitated movements. Dante, you're having a crisis brought on by a traumatic event. It's natural to question things when faced with mortality. But don't make any decisions based on temporary emotions. What if they're not temporary? What if seeing Valentina again has made me realize that I've been living the wrong life for 5 years? The wrong life. Miranda's voice rose with hurt and anger. Our marriage is the wrong life. Our marriage is a beautiful arrangement between two people who enjoy each other's company. But Miranda, we're not in love. Love is overrated, Dante. What we have is mature, stable, practical. What we have is empty. The words hung between them like a verdict. Empty. Miranda turned to face him fully, tears beginning to form in her carefully made-up eyes. Our marriage is empty. Not empty in a cruel way, but empty of the kind of passion and connection that makes life worth living. And you think you'll find that with her? With someone who walked away from you once before? I don't know what I'll find, but I know I can't keep living a lie. What about Sophia? What about the stability she needs? Sophia needs a father who's honest about his feelings and shows her what real love looks like. Miranda stared at him for a long moment, processing the implications of what he was saying. You're going to leave me for her. I'm going to leave because staying would be unfair to both of us. You deserve someone who can love you completely, and I deserve a chance to be with the woman who owns my heart. Even if she doesn't want you back. Even then. Because at least I'll know I was honest about what I really wanted. That evening, after Miranda had left to stay at her sister's apartment, Dante sat alone beside Sophia's bed as she slept peacefully. The monitors beeped reassuringly, confirming that his daughter was healing perfectly under Valentina's care. You look thoughtful. Dante turned to find Valentina in the doorway, making her evening rounds. Just grateful. Grateful that she's going to be fine. Grateful that you were here when she needed you. How is she feeling? Good. Better every hour. She's been asking about you, actually. Oh, she wanted to know if you have children of your own. Valentina's expression became carefully neutral. And what did you tell her? I told her that some very special people dedicate their lives to taking care of other people's children. That's a good answer. Dante studied her face in the soft light from the hallway. Valentina, can I ask you something personal? If it's medical in nature. It's not really. I need to know. Are you happy? Did you find what you were looking for when you left? Valentina was quiet for a moment, her eyes on Sophia's sleeping form. I found purpose. I found meaning. I found the woman I was always meant to be. But are you happy? I'm satisfied with my life. That's not the same thing, isn't it? Not everyone gets to have both passion and contentment, Dante. Some people do. Some people find love that supports their dreams instead of competing with them. Is that what you have with Miranda? The question hung in the air between them. Dante looked at this woman who had once been his everything, who had become something extraordinary in his absence, and made a decision that would change everything. No, what I have with Miranda is a beautiful, empty arrangement that's fair to neither of us. Dante, I'm leaving her, Valentina. I filed for divorce yesterday. The words hit her like a physical blow. What? I can't keep living a lie. I can't keep pretending that practical compatibility is enough when I know what real love feels like. You're making a mistake. I made a mistake 5 years ago. This is me trying to fix it. And if I don't want to be part of your solution, if I've moved on, built a life that doesn't include you. Dante stood up, moving closer to where she stood in the doorway. Have you moved on? Valentina was quiet for a long moment, her fingers unconsciously touching the simple gold cross at her throat. The same cross she had worn the day she left him. I've built a successful career. I save lives every day. I have colleagues who respect me and a purpose that fulfills me. That's not what I asked. It's all I can give you. Is it? Because when I look at you, when I'm in the same room with you, it feels like no time has passed at all. 5 years have passed, Dante. 5 years of building separate lives, separate identities. 5 years that could have been spent together if I hadn't been too much of a coward to support your dreams. Valentina looked at him then, really looked at him, seeing not the cold businessman who had dismissed her ambitions, but the man she had fallen in love with all those years ago. Why now? Why are you saying this now? Because seeing you again, seeing what you've achieved, meeting Sophia, and realizing what an incredible mother you would have been. It's made me understand that I threw away everything that actually mattered. Sophia isn't our daughter, Dante. She's yours and Elena's. Elena. Dante's voice grew quiet. I should have told you about Elena. Your first wife. Sophia's mother. She died of cancer when Sophia was 3. I married Miranda 2 years later because Sophia needed stability, and I needed someone who wouldn't ask me to feel too much. The revelation hit Valentina like a wave. Suddenly, Dante's marriage to Miranda made more sense. And I'm sorry for your loss. Elena was a wonderful mother and a good woman. But Valentina, she wasn't you. And Miranda isn't you. And I've spent 5 years trying to convince myself that love was a luxury I couldn't afford. And now I know that love is the only thing that makes any of this worthwhile. They stood in the doorway of Sophia's room, 5 years of hurt and longing crackling between them like electricity. I don't know if I can trust you again, Valentina whispered. I don't know if I deserve your trust, but I'm asking for the chance to earn it. What are you asking from me, Dante? A chance. Just a chance to prove that I've learned from my mistakes. To show you that the man I am now is worthy of the woman you've become. Before Valentina could respond, a small voice interrupted them from the hospital bed. Dr. Rossi. Daddy, are you talking about grown-up feelings? Both adults turned to find Sophia watching them with sleepy but perceptive eyes. We were just discussing your recovery, sweetheart, Dante said gently. It didn't sound like medical talk. It sounded like feelings talk. Valentina moved to Sophia's bedside, checking her monitors with professional efficiency. How are you feeling? Any headache or nausea? I feel good. But I have a question. What's that? Do you like my daddy? The innocent question hung in the air like a challenge. Valentina glanced at Dante, seeing hope and fear warring in his expression. Your daddy is a good man who loves you very much. But do you like him? The way grown-ups like each other? Sophia, that's a very personal question. I know, but I can tell he likes you like that. He gets the same look on his face that he used to get when he looked at pictures of my first mommy. Dante's breath caught. His daughter's innocent observation had just revealed something he hadn't even fully acknowledged to himself. Sweetheart, grown-up feelings are complicated, Valentina said gently. But they don't have to be. If two people like each other and they're both nice, why can't they just be together? Because sometimes people make mistakes that are hard to forgive. But you could try, couldn't you? For me, the manipulation was innocent but effective. Sophia had just asked the two adults to consider reconciliation for her sake. Princess, Dante said carefully, Dr. Rossi and I have a complicated history. All the best stories have complicated parts. but they usually end happy if the people really love each other. Valentina looked down at this wise little girl who had somehow become the bridge between her past and her possible future. You're very smart for 7 years old. I know. So will you think about it? About being friends with Daddy again. I'll think about it, Valentina promised. But right now, you need to rest so your brain can finish healing. Okay. But Dr. Rossi. Yes. I think you and Daddy would make each other happy. And I would like that very much. As Sophia drifted back to sleep, Dante and Valentina found themselves alone with the weight of a child's innocent wisdom between them. She's remarkable, Valentina said quietly. She gets that from Elena, and maybe a little from the woman who saved her life. Dante, I need time to think about all of this. Of course. But Valentina, whatever happens between us, please don't shut me out completely. Sophia adores you, and you've become important to her recovery. I would never abandon a patient. Especially not her. Thank you. For everything. For saving her. For giving me hope. For being the extraordinary woman I was too blind to appreciate 5 years ago. As Valentina left Sophia's room, she felt the walls she had carefully constructed around her heart beginning to crack. The question wasn't whether she still loved Dante Castellano. The question was whether she was brave enough to risk everything she had built for the chance at something beautiful. 2 weeks later, Sophia was discharged from the hospital with a clean bill of health and strict instructions for follow-up care. Her recovery had been nothing short of miraculous, a testament to both Valentina's surgical skill and the resilience of a child's spirit. Remember, Valentina told Dante as they reviewed Sophia's discharge instructions, no contact sports or high-risk activities for 6 weeks. But she can return to school and normal daily activities immediately. What about horseback riding? After her 6-week follow-up, if everything looks good, she can gradually return to riding with proper safety equipment. Sophia, who had been listening to this conversation with the intensity of someone whose freedom hung in the balance, spoke up. Dr. Rossi, will I still get to see you? You'll come back for follow-up appointments. I want to monitor your progress for the next few months. But what about after that? Will we still be friends? The question carried more weight than a 7-year-old could possibly understand. Valentina looked at Dante, seeing the same question in his eyes. Friendships don't end just because medical treatment does, she said carefully. But you'll be busy getting back to your normal life. My normal life would be better if you were part of it. The innocent honesty of the statement took both adults by surprise. Children had a way of cutting through complexity to reach simple truths. Sophia, Dante said gently, Dr. Rossi has her own life and very important work to do. But she could still visit sometimes. Couldn't you, Dr. Rossi? Valentina found herself trapped between professional boundaries and genuine affection for this remarkable child. We'll see how things go, she said diplomatically. That's grown-up talk for maybe, Sophia observed with disappointing accuracy. That's grown-up talk for let's take things one day at a time. As they prepared to leave the hospital, Sophia suddenly hugged Valentina with the fierce affection of childhood. Thank you for fixing my brain and for being nice to Daddy even when you didn't have to be. You're very welcome, sweetheart. Take care of yourself. I will. And Dr. Rossi, I hope you and Daddy figure out how to be happy together. After they left, Valentina stood in the empty hospital room, processing the whirlwind of the past 2 weeks. She had saved a child's life, confronted her past, and been forced to examine feelings she thought she had buried forever. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Dante. Thank you for everything. Sophia is asking when she can see you again. So am I. Valentina stared at the message for a long time before responding. 6-week follow-up appointment is scheduled for next month. His reply came immediately. I meant personally, not professionally. She set her phone aside without responding. Some questions were too complicated for text messages. That evening, Valentina sat in her penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, reviewing patient files and trying not to think about green eyes and 7-year-old wisdom and the possibility that some mistakes could be forgiven. Her doorbell rang at exactly 8 o'clock. Through the peephole, she saw Dante standing in her hallway, holding a single white rose and wearing an expression of nervous determination. I know you didn't invite me, he said when she opened the door. But I couldn't wait 6 weeks to have this conversation. How did you get my address? I asked Sophia's discharge nurse. I may have implied it was medical in nature. That's borderline stalking. That's determination. There's a difference. Despite herself, Valentina found herself stepping aside to let him enter. Her apartment was beautiful but minimalist, a reflection of someone who had learned to find peace in simplicity. "You have a lovely home," Dante observed, looking around at the clean lines and carefully chosen art. "It suits me." "It does. It's elegant without being pretentious, sophisticated without being cold." "Is there a point to this visit, Dante?" He turned to face her fully, and she was struck again by how much he had changed. The arrogant CEO who had dismissed her dreams was gone, replaced by someone who seemed more human, more vulnerable. "The point is that I love you. I've loved you for 5 years, even when I was married to someone else, even when I convinced myself that practical compatibility was more important than passion." "Dante, let me finish. Please. I know I have no right to ask for anything from you. I know I hurt you in ways that might be unforgivable. But I'm asking anyway, because the alternative is spending the rest of my life knowing I was too much of a coward to fight for the love of my life." "What about Miranda? What about your divorce?" "The papers were filed yesterday. She's moving back to her family's estate in Connecticut. We both agreed that we deserve partners who can love us completely. And Sophia will always be my priority. But she's also been asking every day when she can see you again. She's formed an attachment to you that goes beyond patient care." Valentina moved to her windows, looking out at the city lights while she processed what he was telling her. "This is insane. 2 weeks ago, you were married to another woman. Now you're standing in my apartment talking about love. 2 weeks ago, I was living a lie. Today, I'm trying to build something real. What if I don't want to build anything with you? What if I've moved on? Have you?" The question hung between them like a challenge. Valentina turned from the window to face him, seeing hope and fear and desperate love in his expression. "No," she whispered. "I haven't moved on. I've built a successful career and a meaningful life, but I haven't moved on from you." "Then give us a chance. Give me a chance to prove that I've learned from my mistakes." "How can you prove that? How can you convince me that you won't change your mind again when things get difficult?" Dante reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, setting it on her coffee table. "By asking you to marry me again. Not because you complete my image or enhance my business, but because you're the only woman I've ever loved, and I want to spend the rest of my life supporting your dreams instead of diminishing them." Valentina stared at the box, her heart racing. "What is that? Open it." With trembling fingers, she opened the box to reveal not a traditional engagement ring, but a unique piece of jewelry. A delicate platinum band embedded with small diamonds arranged to look like neural pathways. "It's a brain," she whispered, awed by the beauty and symbolism. "It's your brilliant, beautiful mind that I was too stupid to appreciate the first time around." Dante's voice was rough with emotion. "Valentina, will you marry me? Not because you'll fit into my world, but because I want to build a world that celebrates everything you are." Tears began to flow down Valentina's cheeks as she looked at this man who had once broken her heart and was now offering to help her heal it. "I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if I deserve your trust, but I'm asking you to try. What if you hurt me again? Then I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." "But Valentina, I'm not the same man who let you go 5 years ago, and you're not the same woman who left. Maybe the people we are now can build something the people we were couldn't." Valentina picked up the ring, studying its intricate design. "It's beautiful. You're beautiful. Inside and out, brilliant and compassionate and perfect exactly as you are." She slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. "This is crazy. The best love stories usually are. I could get hurt again. So could I. But I'd rather risk everything for a chance at real love than settle for anything less." "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll give us another chance. Yes, I believe that people can change and love can survive even terrible mistakes." Dante pulled her into his arms then, holding her against his chest as if she might disappear if he let her go. "I love you," he murmured against her hair. "I love your brilliant mind, your compassionate heart, your strength, your dreams, everything about you." "I love you too," she admitted. "I never stopped loving you, even when I wanted to." When he kissed her, it was with 5 years of longing and regret and hope all wrapped together. It was a kiss that tasted like second chances and new beginnings, like the promise of a love mature enough to weather any storm. Subscribe for more incredible stories of love, loss, and redemption that will inspire your own journey, because this is just the beginning of Dante and Valentina's second chance at forever. 1 year later, the wedding was held in the garden courtyard of Mount Sinai Hospital, where Valentina had saved Sophia's life and found her way back to love. It was unconventional, certainly, but it felt right, celebrating their new beginning in the place where she had proven that dreams delayed are not dreams denied. Sophia served as flower girl, beaming with pride as she scattered rose petals down the aisle. She had been instrumental in bringing them together, and she took full credit for their happiness. Do you, Dante, take Valentina to be your wife, promising to support her dreams, celebrate her achievements, and love her completely for who she is? I do, with all my heart, for all my life. Do you, Valentina, take Dante to be your husband, trusting in his growth and commitment, and choosing to build a future based on mutual respect and love? I do. As they kissed to seal their remarriage, their guests cheered. Colleagues from the hospital, Dante's business associates who had come to respect Valentina's accomplishments, and friends who had supported them through their individual journeys of growth. Ladies and gentlemen, the officiant announced, I present to you Dr. and Mr. Castellano, partners in life, love, and the pursuit of everything that truly matters. Later, as they danced to a song about second chances and never giving up on love, Dante marveled at how different this felt from any relationship he had ever had. Any regrets? Valentina asked as they swayed together under the string lights. Only one. What's that? That it took me so long to become the man you deserved. Maybe we both needed that time. Maybe we needed to become the people we are now before we could make this work. Maybe. But I'm grateful for every day from now on. Even when I'm grumpy from 36-hour surgeries. Especially then. I love watching you save lives. And when Sophia becomes a teenager and tests our patience, I'll love raising her together as a team. And when your business requires travel, then business trips get planned around your surgery schedule. Family comes first now. Valentina smiled, seeing the truth of that commitment in his eyes. I love you, Dante Castellano. I love you too, Dr. Valentina Castellano. Thank you for giving me a second chance I didn't deserve. Thank you for becoming someone who did deserve it. As the evening progressed, Dante found himself watching Sophia dance with her new stepmother, their heads bent together as Valentina explained something about the brain that had Sophia completely fascinated. His daughter had gained not just a stepmother, but a role model, a woman who showed her that she could be anything she wanted to be. His heart was full in a way it had never been before. This wasn't love based on social compatibility or convenience. This was love earned through growth, forgiveness, and the daily choice to put each other's happiness first. Dad, Sophia approached them during a quiet moment between dances. Yes, princess. I'm glad you and Valentina found each other again. Me too, sweetheart. And Dad, next time you love someone, don't wait so long to fight for them, okay? Dante laughed, amazed by his daughter's wisdom. I promise, Sophia. No more waiting, no more running away. From now on, we fight for what matters. As the celebration continued around them, Dante reflected on the journey that had brought them all to this moment. He had lost everything he thought mattered. The society marriage that looked perfect on paper, the approval of people whose opinions were ultimately meaningless, the comfortable life built on appearances rather than substance. But he had gained something infinitely more valuable. A real partnership built on love, respect, and genuine connection. The chance to be the husband Valentina deserved and the father Sophia needed. The opportunity to use his wealth and influence to support causes that mattered, including funding Valentina's research into pediatric neurology. Most importantly, he had gained the wisdom to recognize what truly mattered in life. Not what you could achieve or acquire, but who you loved and who loved you back. Sometimes the greatest gifts come from our greatest mistakes. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are also capable of the most profound change. And sometimes, love really can conquer all. Not the easy love of convenient partnerships, but the hard-won love of two people who have seen each other at their worst and chosen to believe in each other's best. Dante and Valentina had learned that the hard way, but their love was stronger for having survived the test. They had proven that families can be rebuilt, that people can grow, and that love is always worth fighting for. In the end, the woman Dante had called lacking sophistication had given him the richest life imaginable. A life full of purpose, love, and the daily miracle of being part of something bigger than himself. And that was worth more than all the social status and business success in the world. The moral of this story reaches beyond romance into the very heart of what it means to support the people we love. Never let anyone convince you that your dreams are too big, your ambitions too selfish, or your goals incompatible with love. Real love doesn't ask you to choose between your heart and your purpose. It finds a way to honor both. Valentina's journey from heartbroken ex-wife to world-renowned surgeon proves that our greatest setbacks can become our most powerful comebacks. When someone closes a door on your dreams, build your own house. When someone says you're not enough, become more than they ever imagined possible. But perhaps most importantly, this story reminds us that people can change, grow, and learn from their mistakes. The man who breaks your heart at 25 might become the partner who supports your dreams at 35, if both of you are willing to do the work of becoming better people. Love is not just about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person, someone worthy of the extraordinary love that waits on the other side of growth, forgiveness, and second chances. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe conspires to bring two people back together exactly when they're finally ready to build something beautiful from the ashes of what came before.